Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to take up 20120338. Motion to deviate the Des Allemands Boat Launch. Do I have a motion? Mr. Taste, second by Mr. Hogan. I now open us up to public hearing. Any objections to adding this to the agenda? Please come forward now. Seeing none, public hearings closed. I got a question with Tracy leaving. It's not a unanimous vote. Can we still take it up? We can? Okay.
Members present.
Okay. All right. Please, I'm sorry, Mr. Nuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is, why does this have to be taken up tonight?
That application for the grant funding is due October 1st, and this is the last council meeting before. I'd hoped to have been able to introduce it to be on the agenda, but Hurricane Isaac sort of interfered, so I apologize for that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Please cast your votes to take up the deviate. All right, that passes. All right, we are deviated. I guess, Holly, you going to take it? Ms. Fonseca?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the resolution that you would authorize your support for us to apply for the grant application for funding of the Des Allemands Boat Launch. Mr. Hebert completed plans and an estimate as we requested. I emailed those to you, I guess, sometime last week, and you have hard copies before you, I believe. They're actually being distributed right now. The total cost estimate for all of the work, multiple phases, is $1.8 million. Just for phase one, which would be the paving of the road, the parking, half of the parking lot, the paving over the levee, the creation of the launch on the other side of the levee, we're looking at $1.482 million. Okay, $1,482,318 and some change. The minimum match, which would be the parish's share for the first phase only, would be 25%, which is what you see reflected in the resolution, which is $370,579 and some change. What the Wildlife and Fisheries representative has explained to us in the past is that their typical range of funding is between $500,000 and $600,000 per phase. So in my email last Thursday, what I was trying to explain is that with a almost $5 million first phase, if Wildlife and Fisheries funded, let's say, $600,000, then the parish's share, we'd be looking at $900,000. And that would be a decision that, would have to be made. So tonight, what you're considering is whether to allow the grant application to be submitted based upon the information before you, the design, the estimate. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer. As I said, Mr. Hebert's here to address specifics on the cost estimate and the design.
Ms. Benedetto?
Do we have the money, and where is it going to come from?
What we have currently budgeted is the $250,000, which was put aside last year. What you would be committing to tonight via your approval of this resolution is the $370,000, the 25%, which is in the resolution.
But that's only going to start it, not finish it.
That won't get us the first phase, given the feedback we've gotten from Wildlife and Fisheries.
Is there a timeline when it has to start?
I've been told with the submission on October 1st, we generally would hear a response February timeframe and would be expected to start construction probably later next year. Give us time to complete the design and do the environmental and any paperwork like that.
You want to think on that one? Take somebody else? Okay. Ms. St. Pierre?
Yeah, we have we have in the budget now 250,000. I also added in the 2013 budget another 250,000. We have a $500,000 grant to do the spillway launch, which we just recently got the permit. We're going to have some money left over from that, and there's some private funds that's going to be put up. So I think we're going to have enough money to do phase one.
Mr. Fauché?
You said phase one, though, is going to pave the road in, create the parking lot, and create the boat launch itself.
Yes.
So after phase one, if we did complete phase one, it's usable as a boat launch. I mean,
Yes.
all the amenities are not there, but it is usable as a boat launch.
Yes, but just to remind you, the land donation agreement states that, you know, the project needs to be completed within a reasonable amount of time, meaning phase two would have to be completed.
Okay, what are we committing to on phase two? If we go forward with phase one, we get the grant money. Can we apply for more money for
We can.
phase two?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a limited amount of time and say we don't get it, but we have to complete it in phase. What are we committing to in phase two?
Phase two would be a total of $300 and almost $400,000.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Right.
I was just checking out, just in case I was missing something.
Now, let me say this. Wildlife and Fisheries, their only interest is what it takes to get the boat in the water.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't necessarily participate in some of the things that are listed for phase two.
Can we use money from another grant for another boat launch?
I think what Mr. St. Pierre's talking about is money that, local funding that we put aside.
Okay.
Last year when we were expecting to do repairs at the, in the spillway boat
Right.
launch.
Okay.
Ms. Benedetto?
When we first started talking about this, what were the numbers that were thrown at us that it was going to cost in the very beginning? I think Paul had stated some numbers.
BKI's cost estimate from their quick conceptual design, and I say quick because they never, to my knowledge, actually went out to the site. It was basically doing it from Google Earth type perspective and putting some numbers together really quickly, which is why they wouldn't come up here and put their stamp on their estimate. Was, if I remember correctly, about 1.1 million for the whole project. But it's just not two estimates and designs that are apples to apples. You're talking about one that was done
But they
free
didn't
of
they didn't
charge.
charge us for that.
Correct. It was
Yeah.
free of charge with not a lot of time spent on it versus one that Mr. Abears invested quite a bit of time on.
But I think when we sat here and talked about it, the perception I got was this was going to be right about there, give or take, but it seems like this is a lot more than what we anticipated it to be.
I would say that's a fair statement, yes. I mean,
So
the
it's not- It is the
BKI's,
same project, but it's not the same project because it's
Mm-hmm.
way over budget.
BKI's estimate was the best information we had at the time, and it turns out that upon further investigation, this project is indeed more expensive than we had originally anticipated.
Okay, I'm done.
Mr. Wilson, please.
I have a question for Ms. Holly. You said the Wildlife and Fisheries, all they wanted, the assistance they're willing to give is, which would be phase one to get the boat in the water. Now, we have an agreement with a family wanting to donate property for us to complete all the phases. What if the bottom falls out, we unable to secure funding to finish the rest of the phases? The family don't have to give us the land, and the monies we spent for phase one, what happens there?
I mean, I'd have to look back at the language in the agreement, but what I'm saying is the whole premise of the agreement was the completion of the total project within, at the time, we knew it would be a minimum of 2 phases. So, and I think that was predicated on the assumption that we would only do the base layer of the road in the first phase. In this case, we're going ahead and asphalting the road in the first phase. So, we'd have to look at the language in the agreement. I think it'd probably be a good idea to revisit that.
I have a question now. time sensitive. Say if we kind of, because we're getting close to budget, and I know last year, Grant, budget wasn't pretty to get things done in our districts, and we all have things to do in our districts. And what's the cap? That was 7 million, right? That we can't go below. Can we wait to get through budget? I mean, why are we rushing this up? I mean, I know Mr. Abed's done a fine job on this, and I don't see the cost escalating that quickly. Can we get through budget and see where we at, or no?
No. It's
We
sort
miss
of,
it?
it's do or die right now. If we don't, without
Can't
your
apply after the
support,
first of the year?
it would be all the way waiting until next year.
That's what I'm saying. You can wait another year.
If you so choose, yes.
I mean, I can't see jumping into something when as we all know, budget's tight. Last year was very, very tight. And I know personally I have some things in my district that I want to get done, and this may prevent it. We got some things coming up with Sunset Levy District. That's another thing. And I don't mean nothing against the people of Des Allemands getting a boat launch. Right now we have one that's working. I know it's not perfect, but I can't see. Let's get through budget, see where it's at. If the monies are there, yeah, let's go with it. But I can't see, jumping into this, because it's just, and I hate to say this, it's like my wife tells me about a boat. It's a big hole we throwing money into right now. It's a big unknown. And at this point, I can't support it. If we didn't have a boat launch there, and I understand, Mr. Hogan, you're trying to improve your district, and I commend you for that, but I can't see rushing into this at this point. Let's get through budget. Let's do it right. Let's appropriate the monies in budget and go from there. Let's don't throw a bunch of money at something we don't know if we can afford it. And then, as Mr. Wilson said, what happens phase 2? We're in trouble. And money is tight. Everyone knows that. So, Mr. VJ.
We've been talking about this for 5 years, so we're not rushing into it. The reason why we gotta move forward, because the grant application goes in October 1st. I put additional $250,000 in the budget. We got $500,000 in the budget for now. Let's take out $400,000 we've gotten there for Rathbone Park. We can go do a whole bunch of things. You heard the Sugar Queen tonight. She enjoys fishing with her daddy. We presented a proclamation for wildlife and fishery. It's time we have a first-class boat launch in the parish. We're gonna have the money to do it. It's in the budget now. We're going to have the money to do it. And even if we're a little bit short, we can go to the landowner and say, I'm sure he's not going to say after we spent $1.4 million on first phase, hey, you didn't complete it all. I'm going to do away with the agreement.
What part of 5 years we've been working on this, Mr. St. Pierre? Because this is the first time it's come to me where we're budgeting for this. I don't understand.
We're talking boat launches.
We've been talking boat launches,
Yeah.
but this is the first time we're dealing with numbers, real numbers, concrete numbers. And I really believe we're rushing into this.
We're not rushing into
We
it.
are.
The numbers are there.
We got it. Look, and the HESCO baskets with the storm. We'll go back, Paul. We need to start budgeting to put a concrete or some kind of wall in Des Allemands. We've got to prevent these people from flooding, and that's a real issue at this point. And I don't think 1.9 million is going to do a whole bunch for that, but it would make a dent for it. I could support that at this point, because I have some things in my district where the pump stations are just falling apart. At this point, I can't support it. Mr. Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regards to the flood wall in Des Allemands, which is a separate issue, we already have money in the West Bank Hurricane Protection funding to do that project if we so wish. So the money for that is already in place. It's just a choice to put it in that location. You say that this is, for the people of Des Allemands. This isn't for the people of Des Allemands. This is for everybody in St. Charles Parish and beyond the St. Charles Parish. This is an economic generator. People will love to come to this boat launch. A lot of people don't come to our parish and use our boat launches because you got to fight. You got to fight across the road. You got to use crap, to put it plainly. So this isn't for my district. I wish it was in one of y'all district. If it was in one of y'all district, there probably wouldn't be a single peep coming out of anybody about this tonight. With regards to the deadline, October 1st is the deadline for the application. That's why we're having to do this tonight. If you don't put it in this year's deadline, you got to do it next year. But if you do it next year, you're wasting your time, because the agreement that the landowner said was that this year you had to apply for funding. If you were unsuccessful in that grant application this year, then next year would have to be coming out of your budget completely. After that, the agreement expires. So while we have this opportunity to get free land to do this project, it's something that we need to take advantage of. Afterwards, it's going to cost you all of the money you got to come up with all the money rather than what the state is going to give us. Plus, you probably have to buy the land from the guy. So, I mean, we're going to lose if this doesn't get at least put our foot in the door to get some money out of this. All right. With regards to the grant, if we apply for the grant and we're successful and we don't accept the grant, what happens? Nothing happens.
The money
So
goes back.
So we have nothing to lose. We apply for the grant. If it comes in and we don't have the funding to make this work, we tell them, look, sorry for wasting your time. We don't have the money. We're going to let it go. So we have nothing to lose with this. Ask for y'all support. Thank you.
And you know, Paul, you're saying free land. It's not free land. You know, you start looking at phase 1 and phase 2. We're putting some significant improvements into that free land, okay? Mr. Fauché.
Yeah, I happen to agree with Paul on one point. And if we do move forward to at least submit for the grant, like you were saying, we need time to understand where the budget is, where the budget's going to fall, what we need to do in the districts. We cannot take the grant. Yeah, absolutely.
It's to my understanding, once we do this, we're telling them we have the money, right?
You're telling them you're committing to the 370. They're gonna, if they choose the project, award the funding, we come back with their allotment of funding and would request another commitment for the difference that, any remaining difference, so to speak.
But one thing is, if we apply and we don't get it this year, at least we've applied. They know the project exists, and maybe it didn't make the top tier this year. But when we reapply again next year, maybe we can have Danny look at it, make a few improvements, maybe make something more attractive. We know we'll probably have some ideas on where our weaknesses were. It's not foolproof that we're going to get it, but at least submitting it takes the first step.
I'm okay as long as we're not committing funds to it, going into the budget.
I don't think we don't have to
right?
use the funds if we choose not to.
You can
take
reject the grant funding. I would
I agree
probably, suggest that we revisit the land donation agreement because there's 3 criteria. Number 1, the receipt of the grant award, which if we would be awarded, that would meet that criteria. Number 2 is that the funding is appropriated. I can't remember whether we put 2013 or 2014 budget, depending on how you take that wording. And the 3rd criteria, there's one more criteria, so you just need to be aware of those contingencies on, if we would get the funding.
To be clear, okay? If we move forward with this and we discover in budget we don't have the funds, it's okay. We're
Yes.
not losing any money other than what we've already invested in the plans
No.
and all, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And okay. And the bottom line is, if we move forward, we get the grant, and we find that we do not have money in the budget, we're not going to want the property. It should go back to the owner anyway. I mean, if we meet the criteria where he is able to dissolve and we don't have the money to move forward, then we don't move forward, and we should give him his property back.
My concern was moving into budget, we were committing funds to this that we couldn't budget elsewhere, is my concern, so. All right, Mr. Nuss.
So that's my question. Mr. St. Pierre, let's rewind. Did I hear you say we're taking money from Rathbone Park to put toward this? Did I hear that?
Put your mic on.
Put your mic, please.
No, I didn't say we're taking money from Rathbone Park, but Larry said we got a lot of problems in everybody's district. I said, well, sure we got a lot of problems, but you got this year we committed $400,000 to Rathbone Park. So
Okay, I thought I heard you say you shifted the money from that. That's what-
No, no,
Okay, okay. That, you scared me there, and so the only thing I would be willing to shift money away from that for would be the levy, and that's it. But that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of money in the levy in this budget.
Well, that's a later discussion.
All right, wrapping up. Mr. Hogan.
Yeah, I think everything's pretty much been said that can be said. We have nothing to lose with this. Like Holly was trying to explain, if we don't get the grant funding this year, then the agreement says that we have to fund it out of our budget completely next year, which ain't gonna happen. So we need to take this opportunity while we got the chance to actually all support it.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Any other discussion on this issue? Please cast your votes. That passes unanimously, Ms. Fletcher being absent.